Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Laufer. Thank you for letting me tell you a story tonight called Falling in Love. So, what does it feel like when you fall in love? How do you know when you're falling in love? The former is an age-old question that's been answered a million times in rhyme and verse. I didn't know the answer myself until it happened to me. I can't tell you the exact moment I fell in love, but I can tell you the moment I realized I was in love. Falling in love for me was a process that started on our awkward first date. I should have known that my wife was the one when I asked her out on a second date, given the fact that our first date was such a disaster. Normally, I wouldn't have even asked her out again, but something clicked at the last minute, and so the rest is history. So I had met her about a year earlier, and try as I might, she would not talk to me. She was in a man-hating phase of her life. Her boyfriend and her split up, and she just was disgusted with men for a long time, like about a year. So after a whole year of me trying, she finally talked to me. I'd seen her in the library, and we were both studying. We both were going to UC Davis, and she was sitting in a chair over by the library, and I checked her out. I said, "Oh, I'll go give it a try again," and I decided to go try talking to her. So I struck up a conversation. She seemed happy to talk and happy to, see me, and I was like, oh, kind of surprised, and we were chit chatting, and finally I asked her out. I said, you want to go out this Friday? She goes, oh, sure, that'd be nice, that'd be real nice. And I was like, wow, real nice. Someone said it's gonna be really nice to go out with me. I was just surprised, so that big points for her or that particular thing. So anyway, it was the first day of spring. It happened to be the first day of spring that I took her out. And I got all dressed up. She lived in Sacramento. I lived in Davis. So I went up to her house, and I go and I knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Nobody's home. What the heck? Nobody's home. Did I get stood up? And I'm standing there. I'm all dressed up, trying to figure out what to do. And all of a sudden, I look over. A little motion caught my eye. And I look over, and here comes this big, huge German Shepherd walking up the stairs. And all I could think of was, please be nice, dog, be nice to me. Well, thankfully he was, and he was a beautiful dog, about 100 pounds at least. Anyway, so I was petting him, and I was just still figuring out where to go, and motion caught me my other direction. I looked down, and here comes my wife, my future wife, walking up the street. I still remember the flower pattern dress she had on, spring dress that she had on. She was really pretty. And so she was down at her mom's ironing her dress. She didn't have her iron in her house, and her mom lived around the corner. So, okay, I'm thinking neutral points, whatever. At least she got here. I'm glad I waited. So she invites me in for a few minutes, and I can see her in her bedroom as she's doing last-minute preparations and putting perfume on and stuff. Oh, that's kind of cool. And then I watched her take lotion, and it was funny because she, put it on her hands, and then she put it on her elbows, and I thought, wow, how feminine that is. And so that was more points, I was like, for some reason, it was just a guy thing, I guess, how feminine I thought that particular thing was. So I took her to a movie, and admittedly, the movie was rather boring. It was called Being There. It was Peter Sellers' last movie. And a lot of people really loved the movie. For me, it was boring. And apparently for my wife, or for my girlfriend, my date at the time, it was boring as well, because when I looked over to her, she was just out, completely out, sleeping away, head back, mouth open, as sound asleep as you could possibly be. So I'm like, oh man, negative points going on here. Should I not have invited her out? So anyway, after the movie, we went to a place called Epipomandos. And basically, it was a kind of a nightclubish type place that had lots of disco music going on, lots of lights everywhere. And so I'm talking to her. We got our drinks, and I'm talking to her, and I'm talking, and I'm talking. And she's not saying a word. Not a word. I'm like, she's just going, So I'm not that much of a talker. I like telling stories, but I'm not that much of a talker. And so I'm beginning to lose confidence. And was I really that boring? I just didn't really get it. And so finally she looks at me, she goes, can we get out of here? And I'm like, okay, I'm blinking, okay, let's go somewhere. So, last ditch effort to salvage the evening, I took her to one of my favorite spots, which is up on the levee overlooking the American River, where I used to live by. And lo and behold, she started talking. You know, as it turns out, she had been to the grand opening of the pub on campus that day with her girlfriends, and she had probably a little too much to drink. And so she was tired, number one. And number two, she didn't like all the flashing lights and stuff in the disco. And so she just wasn't comfortable there. And so, but being on the river, watching the water flow, she was more comfortable. And so the evening ended up okay. And I still remember, you know, taking her home, standing on her porch and giving her that first goodnight kiss. You know, her lips were as smooth as silk and as sweet as honey. It was delightful, and that's really what brought me back for the second date. But I really still had no idea that love was in our future. So after our first date, we continued to develop our relationship, and as is usual, things were tentative and so on. And then it was the end of the spring quarter at Davis. Remember, it was the first day of spring when we first went out. And so we both were summer students, broke, so we had to get jobs for the summer. Well, fortunately, I had a job on campus, and it was great. Well, she got a job as a firefighter up in Forest Hill. So she was gone, and we really couldn't see each other very often. I mean, I think I visited her once, and she never did come down. I only visited her one time. And so I'm down at UC Davis campus, and there's a million beautiful people walking around, and I'm starting to think by the end of summer that I ought to start asking some other girls out, because we weren't in love. At least I wasn't in love at the time. Well, fortunately, the summer ended, her job ended earlier than expected, and she came home. So I was ecstatic. And so we got to resume where we left off, still tentative, still on our best behavior, until we got more comfortable with each other. And then we started having long conversations, and we started, finding out what music we had in common, what we liked, and we were starting to laugh at the same jokes, and yeah, we were staring deeply into each other's eyes after exploring every inch of our bodies together. How sweet it was. So yeah, we were going out. It had been about 5 months, and things were going really well. And my mom invited me and her up to dinner. She wanted to meet my girlfriend. Well, apparently my other sisters wanted to meet my girlfriend too. I'm the youngest of 6 kids. I have 4 sisters and 1 brother. And when we got up there, all 4 of my sisters were at my mom's house. So we were having a conversation, and I don't know what I said. I said something that my sisters disagreed with, all 4 of them. So all 4 of them jumped on me. I don't know. As you know, older sisters tend to offer their opinions whether you want them or not. And so they were really kind of teasing me, disagreeing with me, and so on and so forth. Well, suddenly my wife spoke up to defend me. And when she did, all 4 of my sisters clammed up. I mean, it was such a rare event. I couldn't believe it. And so when that happened, I looked at my wife and I said, I love that girl. Right then and there, I realized that I was in love with her. And it was really funny. I mean, I don't know why that was the tipping point. Maybe because she just had some confidence in me, that she showed, that she recognized qualities in me that other people didn't. But whatever the point was, that's the moment when Cupid's arrow struck my heart. And did she notice right then and there? Well, I don't think so, but she may have noticed something else that night. So thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Take care.